Hi, it's Ursula from ursula-smith.com, and today I'm just doing an intro video. So I'm going to set up a playlist for anything related to Siser. I have the Juliet, so I just got it. And so I'm working through the software, Leonardo Design Studio. I'm working with the Juliet. And so I think I already put out a video that I was working with the Juliet before, but this one is, so this is really an intro to 4 videos that I'm gonna include in that playlist, and it's basically about print and cut. And so I started out with just a basic print and cut. So I had this card background, and I wanted to have cutouts of the birds so that I could layer them on top and pop them up on dimensional tape, whatever, just add a little something. So, so the first video is kind of walking through that process and then cutting out the birds and, having them as separate things. It's a little bit different because I work in Photoshop so much. I'm kind of used to working in layers. And so even in Silhouette Studio, when I worked in that, I used layers. And so I'm using layers in Leonardo Design Studio as well. So I kind of walk you through that. There's probably some extra tips in there, like related to groups and things like that. But in general, first video, normal print and cut with layers and grouping and that sort of thing. So that was video number 1, but I, at the same time, was also working on another card idea. And I've talked about this before. I like to print inkjet and then come over the top with specifically black laser ink. And the reason I do that is I can then run this through a laminator or foiler with heat set foil and have the foil stick to just the black laser ink. It won't stick to the inkjet. If I were to print this, so, those of you who have color lasers, you could print the whole thing, but then you run the risk that the heat set foil sticks to dark colors in the background, and I didn't want that. So I've kind of worked on this before, and if it doesn't have to be lined up, it's super simple. However, if it needs to be lined up, I have 2 very old printers. My inkjet and my laser are old. The printer property software, or the software that comes with the printers, doesn't let me change the margins in a granular fashion. And the reason I needed to do that is those 2 printers have different margins. So you may not need to do all this. You may be able to take a inkjet printout, stick it in your laser with a laser overlay and print that, and it may line up perfectly because the margins are the same. Again, mine are not, and I've worked with printer properties and gotten it close. So I could do that. However, I was like, oh, that's such, and then I have to remember and, which printer properties. So when I'm working on this in Photoshop, I finally just decided, I'm just going to take the laser print layer and move it in Photoshop. So based on my testing, I knew that I had to move my laser layer down 2 millimeters and over 0.5. It really needed to be kind of in sub-fractions of millimeters to be exact, but in my case, it's close enough, and that was good enough for what I was working on. So because I was working on this, video number 2, I decided, back to the birds, wouldn't it be cool if I could take this print and cut image, have a layer with a laser overlay, and print that over the inkjet birds and have Siser cut them. And so video number 2, I'm trying to do this all in Leonardo Design Studio. So I ran into a couple of things. First of all, when I brought the birds in, no problem. I brought the laser overlay layer in, no problem. But when I got to be the print time, I first could not figure out how to move the laser overlay down 2 millimeters and over 0.5 easily in Leonardo Design Studio. So that was kind of out the window. So now I'm back to print properties. And the second thing I couldn't figure out was on the laser overlay, could I shut off the registration marks? Because I already have them in the inkjet print. And I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I had to print the inkjet first, use print properties to move the laser print down to and over 0.5. But the laser also had registration marks. And because it was close-ish, but not exact, I ended up with 2 sets of registration marks that were off by a hair. And again, my printer properties were not granular enough where I could move it over by like 0.55. So I was not going to fix that issue. Anyway, I decided to keep the print, put it on the Siser Juliet, try the cut, and for the most part, it works. It struggles, which it struggles anyway when it's dark out and I don't have great lighting. I have another video on that. And so sometimes I have to align the blade via the machine itself. And depending on how well I do that, but even if I don't have to do that, sometimes the cuts are off. I could end up, with the white border or it's off a hair. And so going forward, I was like, I'm probably not going to do that. But while I was doing video number 2, I noticed I could, instead of printing to a printer, I could send it to PDF. So video number 3, I decide I'm going to take my Leonardo Design Studio file with the inkjet layer and the laser layer now that I built in video number 2, and then save the inkjet layer to a PDF and the laser layer to a PDF. Bring that into Photoshop. And again, if you have software that can read a PDF and do layers, you can be doing this not using Photoshop, whatever you have. And so I bring each PDF and kind of combine them into a single file. So I have a laser layer and an inkjet layer, just like it's set up in Leonardo Design Studio. And I cut the registration marks out of the laser layer. So, lasso them, however, you want to do it. Cut them, put them onto its own layer, and shut off the visibility. So if you think like me, your brain may be going, oh, ding, 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 ding. That's going to be layer number 4, or video number 4. So I'll talk about that later. But in this case, I shut off the visibility and I print the inkjet still with the registration marks from the inkjet layer. Turn that off, turn on the laser layer, no registration marks now. Move that down 0.2 or down 2 millimeter over 0.5. Put the inkjet in the laser, print on top. It's close enough for the laser overlay over the birds, but I only have one set of registration marks that are from the inkjet print. Put that on the Juliet and it cuts like magic. So video number 4, because now after going through video number 3, I now have a layer that's just the registration marks. So video number 4, I start in Photoshop with just the registration marks. I kind of build a kind of like a bounding box so that it sits right within the registration mark, so I know my images aren't going to go outside of the kind of print and cut area. I have another video where that happened and it was fine, but for this all, for what I was doing here, it's already crazy enough. I was trying to keep everything within that bounding box. So I just designed the whole thing in Photoshop. And so I switched to working with this image and trying to turn it into print and cut. So you can see I did it. And so that one was a game changer. So I have an inkjet layer, all different, just the cutout images. So you have to do a little bit of work in Photoshop as well to get them as individual layers, or individual images. And which, I kind of already, that's how I built that. That's how I built this, right? It's a background with this as a separate layer over it. So I already had it as a separate thing. So page full of these on one layer, then a page full of the outlines directly over them on a separate layer. The inkjet layer has the registration marks that I had, as a separate layer. And I can print that and then turn off, or I could even combine it so it's all one, so I don't have to remember to turn the registration marks off when I print the laser. So you could do it either way. Hopefully that's not, if you're a Photoshop person, you know what I'm talking about. But so I have one layer with the inkjet, and for all intents and purposes, let's say the registration marks. And then I have a second layer that's just the laser outlines, no registration marks. So print again from Photoshop to the inkjet, turn that off, turn on the laser, inkjet in the laser, print, and they are moved down and over, print on the laser. And so now I've done everything, design and print from Photoshop. So I have nothing now in Leonardo Design Studio. So the extra step I have to take now is pretty much, you're going to take the inkjet layer and save that out as a JPEG. And then you can bring that into Leonardo Design Studio, go through the print and cut sequence. So bring it in as a print and cut, go through the sequence, have it do its thing to build the outline of the cut, which should be great because it works really well. You'll end up with a print, but you don't need to do that because you've already done that from Photoshop. So you can just ignore that. And then now your print from Photoshop is sitting, you set it up on the Juliet, and now all you have to do is go to the cut step and do the cut, and it works great. So I do a couple of extra things in there just so that I know that, it comes in properly, the registration marks are correct, they're in the right place, which they end up perfect. And so, and that kind of all relates to DPI, so you got to pay attention to that, and I talk about those in the videos. So in any event, I end up with this as the final result. So it's a separate cutout popped up on dimensional tape after I run it through the laminator with the heat set foil. So going forward, so you kind of have to go through video number 3 to get those registration marks into Photoshop. But going forward, now that I have that, I can just design in Photoshop, print from Photoshop, bring in the inkjet individual images from that layer, run the print and cut sequence, and then cut from Leonardo Design Studio. So if you've followed all that, because you've got all these pieces, the different printers, you've got the foiler or the laminator, and you've got some image editing software that's got layers, and you've worked with them for a long time, and your machine, the Siser machine, you may be able to have listened to this whole description and be like, okay, I got you, I know what you did, and go off and do it yourself. And again, you may not have to do the whole alignment of the two printers based on your two printers, and or you may have to, and your numbers will be different. So that part you're going to have to kind of work through yourself. So in any event, if you didn't follow all this and you want to achieve this, my suggestion is you kind of sit through the 4 videos. I know they're long, but I mean, you could try it and just go straight to video number 4. But I do feel like at least going through 3 to 4, might be useful. And if you're a very beginner, I do feel like video number 2, just with the plain print and cut, and I talk about layers and groups and things like that, may be helpful as well. So anyway, if you've sat through this, if you're going to sit through the playlist of the 4 videos, I thank you very much. And as always, thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.